Okay, so welcome back to Black Sheep Podcast. We have a very special guest today. Actually, we've been talking about having guests for a while, but I put the kibosh on it because I like to talk too much and I don't want to share my airwaves. So I'm gonna let my friend introduce himself. So we have our MP here, our federal MP from Southwest Oxford.
Well, it's good to be on the show with Jess, who's starting again?
We'll cut. No, I'm just kidding. It's fine. we keep all the errors in.
Do you?
Yeah.
All right, so Jess and Jen today.
Yeah.
I have a Jazz in my office, so there's 3 Jazzes and Jens in the room right now.
I've been called much worse than Jazz.
There you go. I'm Arpan Khanna, your Conservative Member of Parliament here in Oxford County. It's an honor to be here with all of you today and chat about some of the issues that we're facing in Oxford County and in Canada. So it's exciting. It's my first podcast, so I'm super excited to do it with you guys.
Is it really your first podcast?
It is.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're popping your cherry.
Yeah. Well, we're honored.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to get right to it because we want to have as much time to talk as possible, and we both like to talk.
Yes.
So let's get going. Okay, so there's still some people in the area who don't know where you're from. So can you just tell the listeners where you're from? I'm from Italy, like immigration-wise, like my family's from Italy.
Right.
Go back and tell them where you're from, where you grew up, where you lived, and give us
How
a brief.
you got here.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So my parents are from India, Punjab, the agriculture state. Mom was from a farming family. They still farm today, dairy farmers. Father from a working class background. I was born in Canada. I grew up in the GTA. Went to law school. Went to school in London, Ontario at Western University. Was quite involved in politics. Worked for Stephen Harper, Jason Kenney, for the strong Conservative team when we were in power till 2015. Then we lost government. Justin Trudeau defeated us. He brought in this whole momentum of this new generation of
I was part of
politicians.
that problem, so I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
so I blame you guys for the problem.
so sorry.
We're learning.
Yeah,
So sorry.
it's tough. It's tough now after 8 years of this
Very
corrupt
tough.
prime minister. So I got involved, and then I got married to my wife, who's from Alberta. And one of the things that we discussed about was that when we start our own family, we're not going to be raising it in the GTA. Back in the old days, GTA was very different. Neighbors took care of neighbors. You leave the garage door open. Everyone looked out for each other, and that was how we grew up. But it's changed quite a bit. So my wife and I decided to start our family here in Woodstock. Moved here a few years ago, and now we have a beautiful home on the border of East Zora and Woodstock. We're raising our family. We have one son, Arvin, who is about 1 year and 3 months, and we're expecting our second baby in a few weeks.
Oh my goodness.
So we're going to be adding another Oxford resident shortly to our county.
Amazing.
So we're super excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great. I know we have a 13-year-old, and I don't even remember those days, but I remember there's not a lot of rest.
No.
So
And
good for you for doing this and being a good husband, and that's a lot.
And I'll be honest, Sim has been a rock star in this whole process. We had a very, very busy year. I think we had Arvin, then we had the nomination.
Right.
Then we had the by-election, then I had to be, sworn in Ottawa, had to be in Ottawa a lot of times.
Right.
And for those that know this job, I think it's been the hardest part is to making sure that we balance our family time, make sure I'm there and present when it comes to the big first for Arvin and for celebrating our family success, right? So that has been the hardest part of this job, but it's still an honor every single day because we're doing it for Arvin's future.
100%.
All right, that's why you get into politics because you want to serve and make the next generation better.
100%.
And I think that's what drives me every single day is waking up and knowing that anything and everything I could do will have a lasting impact on Canadians and the future for the next generation.
Okay, well, I thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. No, that's really that's nice. Like I could cry.
Well, it's good
That's nice.
values, right? That's
Yes.
good family
Yeah.
values.
Absolutely.
Okay, so before politics, you're an immigration lawyer,
Yes.
correct?
I was immigration and real estate.
Oh, and real estate. Okay. So maybe we can just move into immigration and we'll just talk about that a little bit. And I'm just going to give the listeners all know my opinion of immigration. I'm an immigrant, but I've also, on my mom's side, been here since the 1700s. So I'm also very pro-Canadian, but I know that we all came from somewhere.
Right.
Everybody here came from somewhere. So we're not against immigration, but the immigration that's been going on in the last few years is completely, in my opinion, which is correct, out of control. And I am very worried about our systems. We have line. We watch videos, people waiting in lines for doctors. I mean, we don't use a doctor. We have a doctor who we haven't seen in 4 years or so. But there are a lot of sick people that we see constantly in lines waiting. Our system cannot handle right now. We have no housing. I'm in the business. I have people calling me constantly to house Ukrainians, which I refuse to do because we have Canadians that need homes first. That's my priority in my business. Not only because I'm Canadian, but also because renting to immigrants, this is what people don't understand. Renting to immigrants is risky business for a landowner, for a homeowner.
I don't think I agree with you on that point, and I'll show you my perspective. But
Okay.
I don't think I agree with that.
That it's risky?
Statement, that it's risky. I think
It
it's
is risky because if they flee, I have no repercussions of them. I can't
look,
go after
If
them.
you follow the law and you follow the Landlord-Tenant Board Act, doesn't matter if you're an immigrant or you've been here for thousands of years. The process is still the same for you to get somebody out.
I disagree. Well, it's the same to get somebody out, but my point to you is if they leave. If I rent to students that are from India, okay, and they rent for 12 months, but in May, and this happens all the time, and in May they leave, I have no repercussion to go. I don't have no, because if it's from here, if it's a kid from here,
Yes.
their dad is my guarantor. Do you understand? I don't have a guarantor from an international student.
That's something I think you should be looking at and adding to the system. If you're going to be having folks that are living in your place, you should make sure they have a guarantor.
Well, I do. That's why I don't rent to international students. That's my point.
I think I think that's unfair to classify as that. I don't agree with that statement. I think that premise. I think it's a bit flawed in terms of who we're renting to based on if they're immigrants or not.
I'm only going by my experience.
Yes,
It's a black and white statement.
Yeah, so that might be,
that's fair.
So that might be something that you experienced. But from what I've seen, some of the best tenants could be immigrants sometimes who are hardworking. They work extra jobs.
Yep.
Who work double
100%.
shifts. My parents came to this country as
So
I'm a
did
proud
mine.
son of immigrants. They didn't take a single day off of work double shift, and they made sure that they met their obligations.
Yep.
I've seen the opposite as well, where immigrant landlords have had issues with other folks. So I think for us to classify that if one group is bad tenants versus the other,
No, that's fair.
That's fair. Very unfair.
It's fair. It's
to
just
make that
me. So
statement.
it's just my personal choice, so that I know that for my clients, they're not going to have to be chasing people internationally.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not.
Yeah.
I am an immigrant. I'm not saying I don't like immigrants. I'm saying that's just how I can better guarantee my clients have better results.
Right.
If they have a dad in Toronto,
I think if you do enough, background checks and processes in place to safeguard your investments, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But I think if you get into if you start looking, well, this class is not going to be good for us, we're going to have a lot of problems in our
That's
country.
fair.
And so for me, I think, do your due diligence. Make sure that you bring in good tenants. But labeling it as a broad stroke that everyone's going to, that fits this category is not going to work. I think
fair.
that would be a wrong step for Canada. And I do agree that Canada's system is a bit broken right now. And we've had these
So talk about that
conversations.
then.
Yeah, absolutely. So after 8 years, we're seeing record number of immigrants coming to Canada, looking around, and now starting to leave. Canada's immigration system used to be an envy for the world. We all agreed as Canadians that we needed immigration. There was this consensus that there was a system in place that people came in, they worked hard, they had jobs, they had that Canadian dream. And now what we're seeing after 8 years is that Canadian dream is starting to slip away. For the first time in Canada's history, we've had a net migration of folks coming in, literally looking around saying, this wasn't promised to us. There's no jobs available. There's no housing available. There's no doctors available. And it does put a burden on our infrastructure as well. So when you have rapid growth coming in and the services aren't there, there is resentment that starts building up, and we got to fix that before it gets too crazy. So what we've actually talked about and what Pierre has talked about is building a system like the old system where it's a fair, orderly system that doesn't have a lot of fraud. We go after the crooked consultants who are trying to take some of these folks for a ride. There's a lot of abuse that happens. A lot of employers that want to use them as free, cheap labor. They bring them in. They have horrible working conditions, and they abuse them. So for us, we want to have a system that is connected to housing. So bring in a number of immigrants that we could actually house in Canada. We have a huge shortage of housing right now, not just here in Oxford County, but across Canada.
Yeah.
If you look at our employment, we have too many people without jobs and too many jobs without people. So there's a mismatch of actual labor, what's actually happening in our country. So we have to look at that and make sure that is being one of the things we consider. And we also have to look at healthcare. You talked about that. If people are coming to this country, they should have adequate supply to healthcare.
Well, so should the people that live here.
Absolutely. And absolutely, I think that's for all Canadians. I think, when you put an overburden in a system, it affects everybody. So we need a system that helps Canadians, helps newcomers, whether you've been here for 1 month or as a permanent resident who's brought their family over, who's buying houses, who's helping support the local economy, or if you've been here for 10 generations.
Right.
Canada is a country for all Canadians. And so we have to make sure that they have the support they need when they're here as immigrants, but also as Canadians. So, when I go to, right now, Sim and I, we've had trouble finding a family doctor in Oxford. And that's the story of a lot of Canadians who are literally going hour drive away to go to their family doctor. So we got to make sure that that is taken care of. So that's one of our top priorities, is to make sure that we find that balance. We had one under the Harper government. I worked for Jason Kenney. We brought in only those that we could take care of. Right now with Justin Trudeau, it seems like it's vote bank politics, and he's trying to build his vote bank for the next election, and that's fine. That's his perspective. The government officials in Canada have actually warned the immigration minister 2 years ago that his policies are going to lead to this crisis.
Well, it's a bottleneck effect that
Absolutely.
we're getting. Yeah.
And he did absolutely nothing. He ignored the policies,
Right.
Kept on pushing through his ideology. And now if you look at where they're at, if you look at where that same minister, who was the immigration minister, then got promoted to become the housing minister. So now he's the housing minister, Sean Fraser. And so as a government, it's our job to have a fair process in place, but also to make sure that we're protecting our Canada way of life as well.
Interesting. Okay. So on the immigration topic, you said, you have people come here, they expect a certain way of living, and when they can't get it because everything is out of reach financially, lines, what happens is crime. Crime happens when people don't have enough money to feed their families, when they can't put a roof over their head. That's when things get out of control. So maybe that's a nice segue into the crime situation right now.
Yes.
Someone who I grew up in London, not too far from here, East London, which, nowadays looks way different than it ever did. We talked on the last episode or two that, I was 13 years old and I could take the Hamilton Road bus downtown, and you might see bums, but it wasn't like it is today, where you're literally afraid to walk down certain streets because, I have a hard time. Downtown rentals used to be, downtown rentals were worth and never had a hard time getting rented. Now, the nicest of places have guys sleeping under the porch, shooting up drugs. There's needles everywhere.
In really beautiful areas.
Yeah. So we're seeing that. We're seeing, after 8 years of Justin Trudeau, there's crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder across our country. And we're seeing that not just in Oxford County, but like you said, London, the GTA, BC, East Hastings, if you go to Vancouver, there's 10 cities built across our country. And it's very sad to see that, to be honest, if you look at where we've come from. So if you look at the crime side of things first, this current government is attacking lawful gun owners. It's going after folks that like us who have been licensed, vetted, trained, tested, statistically the least likely to ever commit a crime.
Right.
Going after our guns, saying that we're somehow the reason the problem we have crime in downtown Toronto on the TTC. Right. Yet they're being soft on criminals who are actually the ones offending in our society.
Right.
Recently, if you've seen Michael Rafferty, the guy who was one of the main guys on the Tory Stafford case here in Oxford County, he's in a medium risk prison now, medium security prison. He's with Paul Bernardo and
Luca Magnotta.
Exactly.
Having fun skating on the hockey rink.
Absolutely. So we're giving now more rights in our country to the criminals rather than supporting our victims. And I think that's a fundamental ideology problem. And we see that with the Liberals passing different bills like Bill C-75. They're soft on criminals, but they're hard on families. And so one of the things we're talking about is building a system of rule of law, which applies to every Canadian, doesn't matter who you are. You break the rule, there should be consequences. Right. If you do the crime, you should do the time. So we're big believers of making sure that repeat violent offenders, those that are notoriously in our communities, always recommitting crimes, have a long rap sheet of all the issues being in touch with police, that they should have jail, not bail. Right now, when I talk to the local police here in Woodstock and across this country, what I'm hearing about is that they go, they arrest somebody, and by the time they finish the paperwork, that person's out on bail already. So that fear of the law is no longer there. The other thing what we're worried about is that we have very few criminals in Canada. Problem is they're very efficient. So in BC, the police came out and said that they had the same, I think it was the same 40 individuals were responsible for the 6,000 crimes in a year. Wow. That's 150, crimes per person on average.
Wow.
If we just take care of those 40 people,
Right.
That's 6,000 less interactions with the police.
Right.
So I think we have to get back in supporting our lawful gun owners while going after the criminals, making sure that there is jail and not bail for them, making sure that this criminal code changes. We've actually proposed some of them on extortion, on auto theft,
Which is a big problem right now.
and it's growing in
And
Oxford
do you know
County
that?
as
Do you
well.
know that there's no system in place to scan
No.
whether a vehicle that's being exported out of Canada
Yeah.
is stolen?
And Pierre shared
Like
the
I
story.
can't understand this, right? I can't understand what?
So Pierre shared a story with all of us. He was in a meeting and he met somebody and he said, well, my car was, stolen, and he had an air tag placed in his car. So obviously on his phone, he's watching his car
Right.
being driven around. This concerned citizen jumps in the car, follows that car where it goes. Police obviously get there, say, hey, you can't get involved. He's like, my car is, I know where my car is. Police said, don't worry about it. We'll look at it later. Different person, same thing, air tag. He sees his car, wakes up, it's at a shipyard. And so he drives over, jumps the fence, goes there, looks at his phone. That's the container where my car is. Calls up, and then I think it was one of the officers. CBSA runs through and says, he goes, officers, thank God you came. Thank God you guys are here. My car is in that container. And they said, well, you shouldn't be here. And they gave him a fine for finding his car. And they saw his car literally ship across to the Middle East, to Africa. And what do you think that money goes towards? Organized crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're funneling organized crime in Canada. We have no scanners. So what we've talked about is bringing about over 70 CBSA officers with technology to scan every single container that leaves this country. So if the container says on that bill of sales or order, says there's supposed to be pet food, and the scanner is showing you a F-150,
Right.
that should be a red flag for take that container off and for further inspection.
Right.
So we're going to look at cracking down on auto theft, extortions. We're seeing a lot of that happening in Canada now, making sure the police have the tools they need to enforce the law. And then obviously the drug problem, it's all being funneled by organized crime. And if we look at what's going on, this government is providing safe supply, saying, here's some supply for you of these dangerous drugs that are lethal. That is not the only tool in the toolbox. And I think we have to start looking towards investing in treatment.
Yes.
That's compassion.
Yes.
There's no safe way of doing dangerous drugs. If you want to help
I agree
somebody,
with that.
you help them get off that that cycle of death and help them with support and treatment and love and community. Not give up on them. And that's why when this MAID policy came out, I was
Yes.
quite against that.
Yes.
We are now pushing mental assistance in dying. I know we're talking about different topics now.
No, we can
we
talk
want-
about it. We
wanna
can
talk
move
about
on to
this.
that.
Yeah, it's all connected because now you're pushing a society to start not valuing life anymore.
That's right.
Especially on mental health. I'm sure, as you know, as very, very well, as someone that works in this field,
Yeah.
mental health changes throughout your lifetime. Sometimes you go through ups and downs in life. It's
Yeah.
very fluid.
Yeah.
There's
You
no
lose a job. You
Yeah.
get divorced.
Something goes on,
Yeah.
and that's life.
Yeah.
Some days will be rainbows and sunshine. Some days will be rough, and you need a strong community around that. You need strong families. You need a strong
Yeah.
church.
Support
You need a
systems.
strong support
Yeah.
around
Yeah,
that.
you don't
right?
need the ability to make a phone call and 12 hours later be dead.
Absolutely. So we opposed that bill. We have aggressively been pushing that. I've had town halls in Norwich. I've met with our faith leaders. I've met with our support workers, our counselors, people that really care about this issue, and they're all generally opposed to this. 17 medical schools in Canada have opposed this, saying
Amazing.
you cannot. There's no consensus on this issue.
Yeah.
And what I worry about is a slippery slope. Right?
Exactly.
So when you see someone homeless, that have mental health problems, addictions, does that open the door for the government to start pushing them
Yes,
towards
it
ending
does
their
because
life?
people have done it.
Yeah, our veterans. Our veterans.
Yes.
Blake Richards, one of my MP colleagues, he met with a veteran who said he had PTSD, and one of the biggest problems he had was getting access to care. So since he's getting access, he had barriers to access to care. The doctors are pushing MAID on them, saying,
Yep.
you know what, that's not what we should be doing with our veterans who have served our country to help fight for our freedoms.
No.
We should be supporting them and giving them the tools they need
Yeah.
to succeed, and not say, here you go, end your life. Same thing at food banks. We have 2 million Canadians going to food banks in a single month.
1 in 20 in the
Record
GTA,
high.
which is
Record high.
insane.
And we have food banks now saying, hey, have you considered MAID? That should not be an easy out for humans. I think that doesn't make any sense.
In a country that has the most abundant natural resources,
Yes.
we should not have one single person starving.
We are a great country with so much potential, yet when we have ideology like we have in this liberal government in parliament every single day, pushing on this culture of death that, taking away power from Canadians. Pierre always talks about this. We believe in smaller government, but powerful citizens
Yes.
that are not reliant on state. When you become so reliant on state, it takes away your individual resiliency.
Right.
Absolutely.
100%.
Right.
And you become victims. And that's
Absolutely.
what this government seems to want, is a bunch of victim mentality that will just are looking for that handout.
Absolutely.
They're waiting for UBI. They're just waiting for the
Yeah.
day that it gets that bill does get passed.
And for us, it's the opposite. We want to make sure that Canadians have the ability to earn an honest living, work extremely hard. There's some sort of special pride in that when you earn that paycheck and it's earned by your hard work and it goes farther and you want to help your kids succeed. We want to build a country where no matter where you come from, what language you speak, what God you worship, that if you work hard in this country, that if you value the Canadian values, that you believe in the strong traditions of our country, you could succeed
Yeah.
and build a great life for yourself. But what we're seeing with this government is the total opposite. The harder you work, the less you get ahead. You make it, Trudeau takes it, and the carbon tax is going up again.
Okay,
in a few
so
weeks.
while we're
Oh my
here, we
gosh.
might as well
Talk about
move to that now.
Yeah.
So we recently did an episode on climate change.
Yes.
So I'm not a climate believer. I'm not a denier, because every day the climate changes. So I believe that the climate is changing every day.
Right.
I believe that we're going through a warming period right now. I've read 7 books to prepare for my last episode. I'm very well versed on the topic. Seeing as carbon is 0.054% of the overall gases in the atmosphere, seeing as we are 1.5% of the total CO2 emissions worldwide, I'm curious why and what taxing Canadians, but not Americans and not Mexicans and not India, not China. I'm curious what that is benefiting and how.
Yes.
And then I want to know that when the Conservatives are voted in, seeing as the last poll showed pretty staggering numbers, will that be repealed? Like let's say it goes in April 1st.
Yes.
Okay. What's going to happen with that when the Conservatives win the next election?
Look, I think we made it very, very clear, whether it's Pierre traveling the country, whether it's our MPs in caucus fighting for our Canadians in Parliament, we're going to axe the tax. It's as simple as that. There's going to be no ifs and no buts. It's going to be we've asked for pauses on farmers in the meantime. Bill C-234. We're asking the government to hold off the carbon tax on our farmers who are drying their grain, running their operations, heating their barns. The Liberals voted against that in Parliament. We had the support of other parties. We got it passed in Parliament, in the House of Commons. Then it went to the Senate, and the Liberals came out and voted and got it gutted, and they got sent back. So when you're taxing the farmer who feeds our families, who grows our food, then you're taxing the trucker who ships the food,
Yeah.
and then you're taxing the processor who processes the food, and then ultimately, guess who pays for it?
We do.
Canadians.
Yep.
And the carbon tax, it's not a real environmental policy. It is actually a tax plan. If you look at what's actually been happening in the last, 5 years that it's been in play, emissions have not gone down. They've not met any single target. They've been, as they've been increasing the carbon tax, it's not showing any value when it comes to helping the environment. None of their targets have been met. Their own parliamentary budget officer has said that's going to be a crazy cost to Canadians with little impact on the environment. And what blows my mind is that they're adding an HST on
Right.
top of the carbon tax.
Right.
So there's a tax on
the
top of a
tax.
tax.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is, and what Pierre has been very, very clear about, is that we're going to get rid of the carbon tax, period. It raises the price of our groceries, our heating our homes, our hydro, our gas. it drives the cost of everything, and it's a tax on everything. And you said it right. I think if you look at Canada, we're very, very small when it comes to our global pollution emitting numbers.
1.5%.
Which is one of the lowest.
Yeah.
You look at India, you look at China, you look at the rest of the world. There's no invisible wall outside Canada
No.
that protects us
We
from
share the
other-
same air.
Exactly. So I think we have to be very, very careful that we don't penalize Canadians when it comes to these issues, making sure that we axe the tax. And look, there's other ways of supporting the environment. We have raw sewage being dumped into our waters in Montreal by some corporations. That should be looked at.
100%.
Real solutions.
There are
to
real environmental
Absolutely.
there's real environmental problems that we need to address. Like, for example, we have 10 acres. Okay? First of all, we're net zero in Canada as it is with the amount of trees that we have. 42% more green than in 1980. I can't get trees.
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau, all I hear him talking about is
2 billion trees.
2 billion trees.
Yeah.
How do I get the
So
trees?
they failed that.
How?
I think they've only planted 200,000 trees.
I can't get a tree.
in that time.
Do you know how much
Wow.
money it
Yeah.
costs? Do you know how much money it will cost me to forest this if
Yeah.
I have to pay out of pocket?
crazy.
I'm just asking though, like, where I have written to so many government agencies about how do I get the trees?
Yeah. Well, look, here's the problem with this government. It's all photo ops. It's
Mm-hmm.
all special announcements. It's all excitement that they want to go out there and talk about these things.
Tampons and male bathrooms.
It's virtue signaling.
Yeah, it sounds good. It sounds good in theory, right? Someone's like, 2 billion trees.
Right,
Sounds
right.
great. It's
Mm-hmm.
bumper sticker politics. It's literally slogans that sell. When they go after
Yes.
our firearms, they're putting these pictures of these assault rifles, thinking AR means assault rifle. It doesn't. AR is a company brand
Yeah.
that builds the guns, but it's easy enough to confuse Canadians.
Right.
When we talk about 2 billion trees, it's a good talking point for them to say, we're going to fix the environment. 2
Right.
billion trees. Everyone understands what that is. So they've mastered the art of making these false promises that don't deliver much.
Right.
And we've seen this even in the last parliamentary session. They had a summit on auto theft. Massive photo ops. Auto theft went up. They called in the CEOs of all the grocery stores saying, we're going to reduce and stabilize food prices. He marched all those CEOs in, and guess what? Food prices went up.
Right.
He had a housing summit saying, we have a housing crisis. We're going to build more homes. We're going to get people in their dream property. What happened?
Construction went down.
Construction went down. Housing cost went up.
Yeah.
Right.
So what my ask to Justin Trudeau is simple. Please stop doing more summits. Stop doing more photo
Right,
ops.
right.
Canadians can't afford to live. Our
Right.
farmers in Oxford County, I was at a dairy farm last night or yesterday morning, and they want to just do their job. They're hardworking people that just want to roll up their sleeves and get things done. They want to produce more, grow more, and make more here in Canada. But when they're being attacked by this carbon tax and look, the Parliamentary Budget Office himself, an independent officer, has said that the carbon tax will cost our farmers $1 billion
Yeah.
in the next few years. What do you think? What do you think happens with that? It drives their input costs up.
Yep.
They don't want to. It's a tough job as is. You're fighting obviously with nature. You're working the fields. The next generation doesn't want to get into farming. Why? Because you're making that job tough. And now we're seeing an attack on our farmers. The current agriculture minister in Parliament, I watch him quite closely. He barely stands up and defends our farmers. The Minister of Energy, Stephen, is the one driving the policy for farming. When you have a radical environmental minister who doesn't believe in farmers,
Yeah.
dictating to the agriculture
Yeah.
minister what the farming
Yeah,
policy
he's a
should
piece
be,
of work.
we're going to have problems in our country.
Have you seen like anything about his past?
I've seen some of the jumpsuit pictures. And,
Right?
look,
It's just to me, it's just interesting that such a radical anti-government person such as him would end up being the environment minister.
welcome to Justin Trudeau's Canada.
Right?
This is the sunny ways you talked about when he got elected, when you guys probably voted for
When
him.
we did.
In 2015 of sunny ways. And I think the problem is that, look, we may not agree on this podcast on every single topic.
Sure.
Right? We may have disagreements. We may have different views. But we're allowed to have healthy debates.
Absolutely.
You're allowed to share your perspective, which I probably won't agree with all of them. I'm allowed to share my perspective, which you may not be able to agree with my perspectives. But in Canada, we should have healthy conversations. We shouldn't attack the democratic institutions that we have built around us. So having a minister that is supposed to be one of the highest positions in our country, using ideology, using his own personal activism to drive Canada's policy without having any regard
Right.
for the success of Canada, I think is a problem. And so that's where Pierre Poilievre has a common sense plan. And that's why he's doing so well in the polls. You talked about the numbers.
Yeah.
I don't follow polls, too closely because they could change.
Right.
Today we're doing well. Tomorrow they might dip a little bit. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
But for us, I think it's about putting a contrast out to Justin Trudeau
Right.
saying, After 8 years of Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh, because
man.
I want to make sure that you know that they're together. It's one
yeah.
party.
Oh, yeah.
You have one side of them.
They're together, all right.
Yeah, and they play footsies together, and then they also, Jagmeet comes out one day saying, "If I don't get this, I'm gonna break up with you." And then Trudeau
Yeah.
goes, "Well, you try breaking up with me," and they have a little scuffle, and they go to the media, and then nothing happens from it. Then they're like, "Well, we made up now, and we're gonna
Someone
keep this
posted a
marriage going."
picture yesterday of Justin and Jagmeet. Justin was the boy and Jagmeet was the girl under a veil, and they were like getting married, and it was amazing. It was so good.
But the problem, in all seriousness, the problem is that they've taken our country so far left
100%.
that the center and the right feel like they're just breaking the
Absolutely.
country. The traditional working class supporters of the NDP,
Yeah.
guess who they're supporting? Conservatives. They feel abandoned because when Jagmeet rolls around with a Rolex and makes videos on that, rides his little foldable bike, wears expensive high end Tom Ford suits, people feel like that is not their leader. And the NDP used to be a party of the working class.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing now with Pierre, our message, the common sense message of if you work hard, you get ahead. If making sure that you have the tools you need to build that successful family, it helps. And people are now starting to see that. Where with the Liberals, Trudeau never have to work a day in his life. All right, he's a trust fund baby with a lot of money.
Yep.
So
Okay,
he
wait.
can't resonate.
I have to stop you. Did you know that he has a disability with numbers? Did you know that he can't manage small numbers?
I think he said that
He
in the
did
video.
publicly say
Yeah.
that. But like,
He's Prime Minister of Canada.
Where was the media? Like, I just want to know, where was the media in 2015? Because I probably should have known that.
Yeah, well,
like, hey,
look,
I
Stephen
can't
Harper-
add up small numbers.
Stephen Harper said that very, very clearly in that campaign when Trudeau came out saying we're going to run $10 billion worth of deficits or debt in our country to support programs. He said it'll be a very, very modest $10 billion. Look at it now.
Yeah.
Look at our economy now. We've dug
Right.
ourselves such a big hole, and that explains it. He doesn't understand monetary policy.
He doesn't.
And how can you run a country like that? Can you run your household without even caring what kind of
No,
money you have?
you can't.
You make those tough decisions. You say, you know what? This month we're bringing in $5,000. Some goes towards rent. Some goes towards our mortgage. Some goes towards our food or basic necessities. You know what? This year we're a bit tight. We're not going to go in and make that investment happen. Next year we have some savings.
Yep.
Okay, we'll put some money into this program. We run our household not on credit card debts, but smart, fiscal financial literacy.
Yes.
Our government doesn't do that.
Right.
And if you I'm sure you've been following the Rive scam app.
Oh, yeah.
it
Let's
was-
move into that. That's
I'm sorry,
fine.
I'm not sure.
No,
I'm very excited.
that's
Wow,
fine. Yeah,
you get me going.
Let's move in.
This is like therapy for me.
I'm good. Well, you're in the right place for that.
So when you have the Arrive scam app,
Yep.
First of all, during COVID, we saw reckless spending from this government. More than half of the money that they spent, that they said was for COVID, wasn't for COVID. They spent it on different, projects and stuff that they shouldn't have spent money on. When they hired this company, GC Strategies, a 2-person company who never received $1 from this government till 2015. Since Trudeau got elected, they started getting contracts. This Arrive scam app was supposed to cost $80,000 is what they first pitched. It was an app that didn't work, that we didn't need, and that wrongfully sent 10,000 Canadians to quarantine.
Yeah.
Missing work, missing time for loved ones, missing big celebrations.
Wow.
Not to mention fines for people like us that wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So it was a crazy, bizarre ideology again. So this company got $80,000 to make this app. Now we're starting to find out that it cost at least $60 million to make this app, because the Auditor General can't get all the documents to figure out what actually happened. There was irregularities when it came to getting this contract out. They were involved in the contracting process.
Yeah.
And then we look deeper. This company received $250 million since 2015, since Trudeau was elected. $250 million for a company of 2 guys in a basement in a cottage somewhere. So that's the waste we're talking about in this government that's driving up the cost of everything for everyday Canadians. When you're having a passport redesign costing you over $168 million just to redesign a passport and put a picture of a squirrel eating by playing by the lake or something, and we're erasing Canada's history. You're taking out Vimy Ridge, you're taking out Terry Fox, you're taking out all the great historical truths about Canada and replacing it with cartoons.
Right.
And you're charging Canadians $168 million. That's a problem.
I also think it's a problem that Chrystia Freeland can't account for the 60 plus million.
Yeah.
But she had no problem accounting for $10, $25, and $30 donations to the trucker convoy, which froze those people's bank accounts.
Yeah, I think we all know now that the Emergencies Act was a massive attack on civil liberties. I think
Yes.
we're seeing that, and now the government is also appealing that in the courts. I just want to let everyone know that a Pierre Poilievre government would withdraw the appeal and not make sure we don't have these mandates that punish Canadians ever again. There was a bill in Parliament that we brought forward. I believe it was a Pierre Poilievre bill, along with one of our MPs, who literally said that we will end vaccine and mask mandates. I'm not against vaccines. You want to get vaccinated? That is your right. You do what you want to do. But you should not be forcing Canadians that don't want to get vaccinated.
Right.
Let Canadians be Canadians. Let them make their own choices.
100%.
Right.
And guess which party voted against it? Most of all the opposition voted against our bill. We lost that bill. So I think it's about getting Canadians back control of their lives. It comes back to our fundamental.
So if the Conservatives got in, though, would we see that bill put in place?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And same thing with the MAID bill.
Yeah.
By ending the mental health expansion to MAID, we've been very, very clear on that. And we're running a lot of town halls when it comes to these things. We are losing our country because we're losing our values.
Yes.
And that's what scares me a little bit, is that we're being driven by ideology that is being controlled by the World Economic Forum, by special interest groups that don't really care about Canada's prosperity. And I think we have to get back to that, where we say, this is what Canada's all about. We have to build up our defense system again. We're not meeting our defense funding. We have the Arctic exposed for other countries to come, look into possibly, invading our country sometimes. So we got to make sure we have defense spending that matches that. So Pierre Poilievre has committed himself to making sure that our government finds savings, but also supports our defense military by making sure we meet our 2% target that we're supposed to be meeting, that we're not meeting. I'm a big believer in making sure that our Canadian Armed Forces have the tools they need. Unlike Trudeau,
Right.
who gives
Right.
used planes that the Australians decommissioned.
Right.
If it's not good for them,
Yeah.
why is it good for us?
Well,
Right.
see, our producer over here actually was in the military, and so we've heard some stories. And I actually know another guy who's in the military, and he had to pay money out of his own pocket recently for gear because
I heard about that.
the government couldn't pay for it. Not to mention the fact that though there is tons of money in the government to put tampons in the male restrooms at Trenton.
Yeah.
Well,
they're in Parliament as well.
And they are.
Yeah, I was
Oh, wow.
surprised. But look, it's ideology, right?
It
I think it's the priorities. They don't know what the priorities are. And I think
What about making tampons for women free? Like, I mean, no, I mean, I'm 100%, like, give me a second here to run this thought through my head. As a child, as a, girl going through puberty, one of the worst things in the world for you is to need a tampon, okay? It happens all the time. And you go into every bathroom and they're never there. And when they are there, they're on the wall for 25 cents, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of homeless women and women that can't afford to have tampons and
And all
pads.
the shelters, they always need.
They always need them. I
donations.
just am blown away that we don't have the money to put actual women needs at in the forefront, but we have money to spend to put tampons in men's bathrooms.
Yeah,
It's
look,
just, do you have to pay for them in Parliament, or are they
No, I
free?
think they're free. I've never
God,
engaged
this
in one of
is
those, but
even
it's-
better.
My thing is
Just
this,
curious.
It's common sense. And I
Yeah.
think we have to go back to our common sense and our values, and making sure that we give people the support they need. Look, government has a role to support Canadians, but Pierre also believes the government should be a mind your own business government.
We literally talked about that. I said, remember when you were a kid and your mom would say, "Mind your business."
Yeah.
Like, oh, the neighbors across the street are, mind your business.
Yeah.
That's not your business. What the fuck happened to mind your own fucking business?
Yeah. And I think we have to get back to that basic level of government where
Yeah.
we, again, like I said, smaller government, bigger citizens. Let's empower Canadians.
Yes.
Let's make them feel like they're in charge of their own life. During COVID, that was not the case. Government keeps taking away your civil liberties. The government goes around taking away your belief systems. They're dictating to you what you can say, what you can see, what you can do. They're trying to control with this, new censorship bills they're trying to pass every
Thank
single
you.
day. We're seeing, Bill C-11, C-18, online harm bill. They're making these things up to block Canadians from living their lives.
To me, it's so bizarre that they want to go after me for how I think and what I respond to online. But Luca Magnotta, who mailed parts of a gentleman's body across the country to his family, is in medium security prison. I just can't wrap my, because I'm going to prison for online
Yes,
hate
look.
speech. Like, I know that's coming. I'm gonna be. I hope you get to be prime minister one day, so you can. What's it called when he'll let me out? What's the word?
Bail?
No.
No,
Acquitted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you acquit me because I've been imprisoned because I said that some trans men don't, whatever.
Look,
Anyway.
Jess, the way I see it is this: is that the government has literally tried to take control away, and I'm seeing that across all levels of government. They're literally trying to make you feel
they're
like
handcuffing us in every aspect of our life.
absolutely, and is that really the role of a government?
No.
No, the government's supposed to be working for us.
Yeah, you work for
We
me.
pay for the government.
Well,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. So when I go around in Oxford County and people are saying, well, look, this guy's hustling. He's out there talking to people every single day. If you look at my schedule, I'm literally out every single day into our community, talking to people, hearing their issues, hearing their concerns. Why do I do that? Why do you think I go and spend time away from my family to go and meet our great residents? Because I work for them.
Right.
They're paying for my salary. I am their public servant.
That's
I
right.
can't be their voice in Parliament if I don't know what they're going through.
That's right.
So yesterday, and this is a prime example. Yesterday, my wife wasn't feeling well. We took her to the Woodstock Hospital, and we had a meeting at 5:30, and I had to respectfully tell my wife that I'm sorry, I have to go because there's people waiting for me that are actually there to share their concerns. As a husband, as a father, I want to spend time with my family.
Sure, and she's
I wanna-
pregnant, like, that's-
but
Yeah.
people don't see that that happens in our lives. But I value my job very, very deeply because I know it's not just a job; it's a calling, it's a service. I'm not doing this because I want to get rich. You can't. It's not what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I was a lawyer. If I want to make money, I could make money. It's about making sure that Oxford finally has its fair share of funding. If Oxford finally has a fair share when it comes to being at the table, and I think I've said this to you before. Last time somebody spoke about Oxford County in question period in Parliament was 2018. So for 5 years, from 2018 till I took my seat in Parliament, no one was talking about our issues.
Really?
That's crazy. So on the first day when I took my seat, I stood up and asked my first question, supporting farmers. And every single day I've been standing up, fighting for our values, fighting for our community, because I know my time is limited. I'm not going to be here for 20, 30 years. God has put me in a place of service. There's a certain time I have dedicated toward this country, and I want to leave Oxford better than when I first took it. That drives me every single day is finding, and look, we will not agree on everything. That is a fact.
Sure.
My wife and I don't agree on everything ourselves. We always
Yeah.
have disagreements on things.
Yep.
In any family, that's normal. We're allowed to have disagreements. We're allowed to have different
It's healthy.
perspectives.
It's healthy.
Yeah. And look, like I said, we may not agree on everything you said on this podcast or what I've said today, but the fact that we could have an open conversation and a healthy conversation is what Canada is all about.
Yeah.
So when Trudeau comes and says that is hate crime or hate speech or that is not right, whose definition is that? It's his.
Yeah.
So what stops him from saying that we're saying hate speech is talking in today's podcast?
Well, that's what 100%.
Right? So
Yeah.
that's what I worry about is that we're teaching the next generation
To be
to literally,
fearful.
yeah. And where we should be teaching them to be critical thinkers. We should say,
Right.
think outside the box, be
Yes.
different, be
Right.
inspired, ask
Yeah.
tough questions.
Yeah. Don't
Ask-
follow. Don't listen.
lead.
Not everything that you're taught in school is right.
Yes.
Question things.
Yes, schools, our government, on social media, on TikTok, there's a lot of stuff going around. Ask those tough questions.
Yeah.
Okay, does this make sense? Right? Don't just take things for face value.
Yeah.
That's
Right? And I was telling you earlier as well, tell your viewers, you want to know what's happening in Parliament? Go find out the actual bill. It's all online.
Yep.
Go watch our debates. Go watch our videos.
Yeah.
Go turn on CPAC. I know it's very, very boring content. So if you're bored.
No, I watch it a
and you
lot.
can't
I
get
watch it a lot.
Yeah. So, but get informed. See what's actually being said in Parliament. Because the headlines is what people see in the news. Right?
Yeah.
And the headlines are misleading. Right? They attack Pierre all the time. If you look at the media,
Yeah.
CP or CBC, they're always attacking Pierre.
Well, actually,
and the
can we
Conservatives.
touch on that? Because we're getting close to your time limit here, but I wanted to talk about the legacy media. So the funding that obviously
Crazy.
we've been paying attention, and we know now why we voted for Justin Trudeau in 2015. And you can thank CBC and Global and CTV because we watched the news and that's what was on, and so that's what we thought was true. Now we know that's not true.
Right.
We've been woken up. what's the conservative plan for media?
Yeah, look, we've been very, very clear on this topic as well. Pierre has said that when it comes to the $1.4 billion that we're giving to the CBC, it'll be gone. I don't think that any media outlet should be getting that kind of money from a government who then carries their water when it comes to these big scandals and issues.
Right.
That's
when
right.
when their CBC is giving their executives and their senior, I guess, officials and executives in their office massive bonuses, massive pay raises,
So corrupt. That's
while
so
Canadians
corrupt.
are suffering, lining up at food banks.
Yeah.
This government is lining the pockets of these rich executives.
Yeah.
That's absolutely wrong.
Yeah. And then, oh, by the way, and then let me just say, they took the money and then they laid off 5,000
Yeah,
employees.
yeah.
Let's just mention that.
And which is bizarre. And then, so what right now what the media has become the comms department for the Prime Minister's office.
Yes.
Is what I treat them as. They play hand in hand of pushing out news stories, and I think that's where we need independent media to be voices on social media, on whatever channel you have.
And we have so much independent media, but we're all being canceled
censored.
and shadow banned. And I mean, and you don't even get to ask questions. Like Keenan Bexty, that's a guy, Counter Signal, and they don't even let him ask questions half the time, unless it's Danielle Smith in Alberta. They get along nicely, but
But you know why? Because they're afraid. The media,
Yeah.
the government is afraid. The government is being afraid to be questioned. And I think it is a job of journalism. When journalism was done right, it had a fundamental role to play in democracy.
when the journalist wasn't biased,
yeah.
it was supposed to be, this is the story, I'm going to deliver it to you. You have the intelligence to
make the decision,
decide
yeah.
what you think about that story, but I'm giving you the facts and you decide
And there's some
the
good,
rest.
and I'll be honest, there's some good journalists that are still part of the legacy media that still
Yeah,
take
like Brian Lilly. I
that
like
still-
that
yeah,
guy.
that
He's a
still
good guy.
take their job seriously, that they still believe in honest journalism. I think
Yeah.
we need more of that. But look, I think it's just a way of government controlling what they get out. And again, for them, it's about power.
Yeah.
Control and power. And so I'm not sure how much time we have left, but as we get closer to the election,
7 minutes.
as we get closer to the election, there will be massive disinformation campaigns
Right.
from the left
Yeah.
trying to discredit our candidates, trying to discredit our member of parliaments, trying to discredit Pierre Poilievre, his family. They're going to make up things left, right, and center. I've seen those attacks while I ran for my nomination. I've seen those attacks when I ran for my by-election. I still get those attacks today. They want to cancel anybody that's going to be speaking up against them.
Right.
Anyone that's a threat
Yes.
Yeah.
to them losing control
Yes.
and power,
Yeah.
they will try and cancel you.
Well, and they'll come after your character.
Of course.
Rather
Yeah.
than actually have information that's helpful.
Exactly. And they'll take personal
Yeah.
shots. But then,
Yeah.
then they tell us we're the party of division.
Right.
Right.
That we're the ones
Right.
that are dividing Canadians. It's absolutely nonsense. I stand in Parliament every single day and I watch the Liberals. They are so divisive when it comes to name calling.
I know.
Oh, the
like
bullying
that.
from our government,
Who's your new
yeah.
guy? Jamil
Giovanni,
Jamil
a great-
Giovanni.
a great
and
win
they
in
called
Durham.
him and Trudeau
twofer.
called her called him a twofer.
Yeah.
Like was that a racial slur?
that's
Because
it.
he's like, what are you? Because he's half black, half white, I think, or
Look, the good news is this. Jamil took that on head on.
100% he
And
did.
he destroyed
Absolutely.
the Liberals in that by-election. I was there. He worked extremely hard. He got 57% of the support, the highest it's ever been.
and they were a liberal riding previously.
No,
were they
it was
not?
conservative,
Oh,
but,
they were. Okay.
but it was a lot. It used to be a lot closer.
Okay.
But Jamil just used that energy to work harder, hit the doors.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it's very easy to push information out. So we're gonna expect this warfare that's gonna start from the Liberals all the time. So even in our riding, my request to our Oxford residents is simple: before you make up your mind from the news you've heard, just call me.
Right.
I'm very easy to get a hold of. I do
a
a
good
lot
point.
of I do a lot of public events. I'm out and
Yeah.
about. I'm pretty open when it comes to having these conversations. If you hear something about me, or you hear something about my team, or hear something about Pierre Poilievre, pick up the phone, call me, email my office, talk to me at an event, share your concerns, find out the truth. Because a lot of times, even in the nomination, people spread a lot of lies about me,
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, he's not one of us. He's not from here." I lived in Woodstock.
Yeah.
I had a house. We were living with my family there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was the fear of division to distract from their failed record
Yeah.
of destroying our country.
Right.
So get to the bottom of the truth. Be more objective. Be critical and question us. I'm not perfect. I will make mistakes.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah, and I will vote for things that you don't agree with. But ask me why I'm not voting for that. There's always a reason why we don't vote for something. And sometimes what happens is liberals will say, well, look, the Conservatives are voting against national lunch programs for kids that can't get food. Do you actually think as a parent, as someone that's having kids going to school hopefully soon, I would ever vote against stuff like that? No. But if you look at the bill of what they've put out, it was a study to study the food crisis to potentially open up a...
So it had nothing to do with.
Oh my
It
God.
wasn't providing a single meal to
Right.
kids that need it.
Right.
Why do we need more studies on these topics that we already know the answer to?
Right. Why don't we just feed the fucking kids?
Feed the families, feed the kids, feed the children.
Yeah.
So when this government puts out these kind of bills, we're doing a national study
Yeah.
on
That's
this
going to
issue.
go back to the same Arrive scam guys in their basement.
And that's exactly, the money gets put in bureaucracy. Bureaucracy takes all the money, and the meals on the ground never get there. So for
Yeah.
me, people were like, well, okay, you know what? What's happening to this bill? I said, look, we're voting against for this reason.
Right.
Put a bill forward that actually feeds kids. We'll look at it. Put bills that actually make sense. We'll look at it. But what the liberals always do is they put some of these bills out, but they put so many conditions around those bills
Sure.
that you can't even like vote for them. Right? So that's the problem we have, is that Canadians do understand that. Ask me for my voting rationale. Why did I vote that way? And I'm happy to walk them through that.
That's a good.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
Happy
That's
to
a
walk
really
them
good
through
point,
that.
yeah.
Because there'll be other bills that we vote on bills all the time. There's one on export of horses for slaughter. Look, as a vegetarian, I don't believe in killing animals. That's my personal view. If you want to eat what you want to eat, that's entirely up to you. I don't
Yeah.
care. But the bill, I had people calling me, oh, you're against, do you want horses to be slaughtered for food? I said, the bill's not about that. It's about conditions of transporting animals in general and horses in general. So if you look at the bill
Interesting.
and what you're saying,
Right.
two different issues.
Yeah.
And so we have to educate our community about that. Say, guys, don't just follow headlines. Don't just follow TikTok or whatever's going on media.
Well, I'll give you a
Ask
perfect
questions.
example. I had one of my questions was about can you say it?
S233.
Yeah. And I had all these concerns that someone had sent me, and then this morning we're going over kind of some topics, and it's like, oh well, that's not even in the.
Yeah.
So you do have people that are just over the top freaking out about something that's
It's
not even
emotionally
tabled
driven.
yet.
A lot of it's emotionally driven.
Yeah.
You get
And
people
look,
in uproar.
and I don't blame Canadians for being emotionally charged. I actually
Yeah.
find it refreshing that Canadians are so
True.
That care. They
passionate
care.
about
True.
Canada's democracy and the
True.
future of our
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
I think we need more healthy debates and more healthy
100%.
discussions,
Yeah.
right? So
Absolutely.
it's a good thing
No,
that people are starting to
absolutely.
be aware.
Yeah.
It's just making sure that we know where the information is coming from and making sure we know what's happening.
Yeah.
But look, we live in a great country. Obviously, after 8 years of Trudeau, few things feel broken. My hope and my vision for this country is that we will get our country back on track with the right leadership, with someone like Pierre Poilievre, who has very clear plan to get our country back on track. Whether it's making sure we axe the tax, we build the homes, we fix the budget, we stop the crime. These are all common sense ideas.
Most
that Canadians
importantly,
need.
cutting the government out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, we believe big time when it comes to that. That again, you're in charge of your own destiny. That is not our job of a government to tell you what you can be. We will give you the environment to create that success for you. We will create the environment where if you want to be the scientist, the doctor, the plumber, the tradesman, the teacher, whatever you want to be in life, whatever kind of household you want to live in, whatever you want to do, that we get out of your way, we give you the tools you need to succeed, and that you achieve your God-given potential. We have natural resources. We have great people in our country. We have the potential to be a manufacturing hub. We have the best farmers in the world. So why are we not letting them be who they are? Let them make more, grow more, produce more here in Canada. We saw during COVID, the world shut down around us. They didn't care about Canada. We had to, beg for Tylenol, for God's sakes. We had to, go around looking for, baby formula for the longest time. I remember those when my wife would send me to Zayres, to independent grocers, to run around, look for baby formula. It was tough. But how does a country like Canada ever end up like that? So that's what we have to do, is get back to a country where we take care of the basic necessities and put people back in charge of their lives and make Canada the freest country on earth again.
Well, on that note, I'm very grateful for your time today. I learned a lot. And actually, I really don't think we disagree on much. My opinion of the landlord-tenant board is less than yours.
Yes.
Other than that,
I'm not a fan of them either.
Other
and
than that-
Tucker and Hardman.
okay. Well, thanks again,
you so much,
Arpan.
guys.
We really enjoyed it, and I hope we get to do it
Absolutely.
again sometime.
Love it, and you guys are awesome. Keep doing
Okay.
what you're doing, and let's keep fighting for freedom.
Thanks very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay.